Welcome to the Pocatello Business Podcast, the only Pocatello podcast focused on providing profits for Pocatello people. If you love our town and love small business, you are in the right place. We interview local legends, learn business, and have way too much fun doing it. You're listening to the Pocatello Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around great guy, and owner of New Clean Commercial Cleaning, Spencer Ward.
All right, everyone, we are back again with Kendra Rone, the one and only gal that I would go to for her State Farm, right?
Yep.
State Farm. I don't make sure, I say anything else, but Kendra Rone was the president of our BNI group, also known as Business Network International. She knows what she's doing. She's very good at helping people and networking with people, and we're happy to have her on the show today. So Kendra, say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. Well, before we get into the nitty gritty of it, I got to say we have a quick sponsorship timeout here saying, that we are still sponsored by Dell's Outdoor Advertising. And if you guys want to stay at the top of your customers' minds and you want to continue to grow your businesses, Ken Oram himself on this podcast said that was a huge help to ICCU's growth, was with these outdoor advertising, these billboards. So there's ways to do it, and there's ways to do it wrong as well. So, but if you want to get a hold of Rob, I would definitely recommend it. If you sign up for a 3-month deal, he gives you your first month for free or your installation for free, which is huge. So call Rob at 208-232-6886. Okay, Kendra, let's roll the red carpet out for you. Tell us about yourself, your family, your hobbies real quick, and let's get the thing started.
Okay. Well, I'm an original Pocatello girl. I was born and raised here. I moved to Seattle for a little while, went to college there, then moved to Utah where my husband went to college there, and then moved back home. My husband started a tile business and then moved into hardwood. So we've been running his business for years, and then I went into insurance about 6 years ago. And started in Aaron Moore's office and then moved over into my own about 5 years ago, and just have loved it. It's an amazing company, and it's been an amazing experience.
I like it. Now, I ask this question a lot to many of my guests, but I feel that it's interesting for each industry. But what are some of the common myths in your industry?
So for me, the biggest one that we hear people talk about is they say, I want the insurance that the state requires me to have because that will keep me safe. Well, the state has limits that it requires, kind of like a speed limit, right? Like this is as fast as you can go, but it's not really a safety guideline. It's just hey, this is what we think is safe for this area. Well, this is what the state requires, but that doesn't mean that it's going to protect you from anything specific. If you cause an accident that costs more money than that, you're still financially responsible. And so that's probably our biggest one is people saying, oh, I've got the state minimum, I'm protected.
Yeah, I agree. I've had one of our previous agents, we won't name names or anything, but my rates were cheap. They're super cheap. And my wife and I were happy with it. And at that point, we didn't know a lot about insurance. We just knew we had to have it. And someone ended up taking up over from that, the previous insurance guy. And they were looking at our insurance. I said, and he was just telling us that, man, you guys have hardly any insurance at all. Like, no wonder you got, such cheap rates. So it pays to make sure you have the right insurance, to make sure you're covered, especially with families, businesses. You don't want that stuff stripped away and then sold for parts. Like especially your family, So sometimes my wife would probably not mind if I was stripped away and just sold, but other than that. But no, yeah, it's important to have more than the minimum. So I agree with that.
Absolutely.
Well, perfect. Kendra, what are some of the others other than going for the minimum for people that are owning businesses or managing businesses? What are some things that you see that are common mistakes being made?
So one of the biggest things that I see is that people don't come in regularly to meet with their agent, or they don't have agents who are local who they can do that with. And so one of the things that really we work hard on is making sure we visit with people, because we have found that people have very rarely, like you until you met with someone, you didn't know your rates. Well, your rate was great, but your coverage wasn't. And so that left you and your family at risk of losing your house, risk of losing your paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, any assets that you had accrued, those are the first to go away. So we want to make sure that your assets are protected. And so with that, as people go through time, we do little touch points and make sure you have the accurate amount. Very few people actually know what an umbrella policy is. And that is a liability protection. And there's a lot of people who should have one, and only 3% of Americans have them. So if that tells you how few people have that real conversation with their agent, that one is eye-opening to me.
Perfect. So is the umbrella coverage, is that the same as like an aggregate? Like, because I think I see that on policies, like, okay, you've got $1 million worth of coverage, but then you have like a $2 million or $3 million aggregate. Is that pretty much similar to an umbrella?
Correct. So with a business policy, what that's saying is that you get to use that million twice. So you'll have a 2 million total, right? So your umbrella would be your million total. And then your underlying policies, like your auto policy, typically would have a 250,000 or more minimum. So you'd max that out first, and then the umbrella would kick in. So you use both policies, but you get that max. And yes, you'd have that million threshold on top of your other policies.
And for businesses, it's really not. People think, oh my heck, I can't afford a $2 million umbrella package for my business or for personal. But really, it's not much, right?
No. They're anywhere from $8 a month to $30 a month, depending on how many cars and drivers and the age of the cars and drivers. So they're really not expensive.
So save yourself one trip to Jack in the Box, and you pretty much have it, guys and gals.
Exactly.
Okay, I love it. So those are some of the common issues that are being said. What would you recommend somebody coming in? Let's start off with someone just starting a business. Okay, I'm just starting a business. Let's say it's for kicks and giggles, it's a service industry business that maybe they're going to people's homes or people's businesses to do work. Like, what would you recommend for that person to start off within their business insurance?
So there's things that the state requires, right? So obviously they're going to have a business license. They're going to have business insurance. Most of the time, the city requires you to be bonded, whether it's Chubbuck or Pocatello. Those are the basic things, and most people get those things. What they don't get when they start a business for themselves is paycheck protection and life insurance that isn't coming from the job that they used to have. And so those are really the two biggest mistakes that I see, because when that person gets sick and can't keep working and providing for their family, who's going to come in and make that paycheck up? Now their spouse is either going to be trying to run that business, which they may not have been a part of, or they're going to have to get another job altogether, and they're going to have to sell their business they've worked so hard on. And so those are really the two biggest ones that most people miss when they're setting up a business, is making sure they've got that paycheck protection and life insurance so that their family can keep going if something needs to happen to them.
I agree. And then on top of that, there's 2 points I want to make. I think sometimes people too much live their lives like feeling like they're invincible. Nothing's ever going to happen. They're never going to get diagnosed with some illness. They're never, nothing's going to happen bad to them or their family. And then secondly, they're probably thinking, what's a bond? What bonds for? There's different types of bonds, correct?
Correct. So
I have one, for example, like that covers any kind of theft, employee theft, which we've never had to use, thank goodness. But yes, those are things that you want to have in place to cover your butt, because liability insurance only covers so much within the property and within your services. So that leads me to, yes, life insurance. How many people, listening to this right now is thinking, man, I've been thinking about life insurance for a while. Now I've got a kid or 2 kids or 3 kids or 4 kids, and, I don't have anything on me. What happens if something happens to me? And it's devastating enough to lose a loved one, but to leave your family in a financial crisis when that happens too, I think that's even more devastating, to see them go through all that.
And that's really hard for us as insurance agents. Now, when you have a customer that hasn't either said, no, I'm not interested, and then something happens, and you watch their family have to move out of their house, move in with other family. I mean, their life's already been turned upside down, and to watch them have to go through all that extra is really hard when you know something that not expensive could have prevented all of that. Exactly. But it's just something that people forget about, right? We think about it and then it's gone. So if you're really not meeting with an insurance person regularly, that's when it gets forgotten. When you meet with someone regularly, it's top of mind pretty often.
Mm-hmm. What do you say to the person like, my goodness, I'm just starting out a business, or I'm just getting into my career after college. I really have no money, but I know I've got a small family. I'd like to be able to provide something for them if something happened for me. What would you say to that person?
Well, I talked to them a little bit about what they do. So what are you doing? What are you expecting to make? Where are you guys spending your money? So we talk a little bit about that. Most people go out to eat, no matter how much money they say they don't have. Or they go to the movies, right? I mean, the movies is $20. Well, so is a life insurance policy, especially if you're young. If you're young and you're healthy, it is inexpensive. And the hardest part is that so many people wait until they're not as healthy or they're not as young to start doing that. And then it is more expensive because it's based on your health. I mean, not everybody can get life insurance. Yeah. You have to qualify for it. So the healthier you are, the less expensive it is. So for me, I always tell people you want to get it as young as you can, as healthy as you can be, because that's when it's going to be least expensive for you. And then you can make other decisions along the way with those policies you already have, because you can change them either to be permanent, or you can change pieces along the way so that your insurance doesn't get super expensive as you get older. It keeps that lower rate for you. So there's lots of things that we can do, and nobody can afford life insurance, especially when they're
Yeah, I like it a lot. Now, what would you recommend? Because I'm sure, the people are out there probably thinking, okay, well, I know there's so many different types of life insurance. There's this whole policy or the term. Like, what would you guide people into,
So we tell people to look at their life, and that's an acronym for 4 separate things. So you want to look at what loans you have. You want to look at what income you're bringing in. You want to look at what final expenses will look like for you. So what does it cost to buy a coffin? Or if you're going to be cremated, like, what does that cost and what is that going to look like for your family? So what is that final expense going to be? Is all your family here? Is your family all out of state? So running those kind of things. Do you want education for your kids? Were you planning to pay for your kids' college? If you're just starting out, you probably haven't started that. But if you've started having kids, that's one thing that you can wrap in there, is make sure, hey, I'd like to make sure my kids get to go to college no matter what happens to me. This is going to go on a fund for them. So those things, and then whatever extras, like if there's anything else that you can think of, like, hey, I'd really like to donate money to this charity that's given so much to me, or these people did so much for me, right? So there's lots of different things to look at, but if you look at that 4 basic life, loans, income, final expense, and education or extras, then you've got those things covered.
I like it. I like that. It sounds like you know your stuff, Kendra. So
I hope so.
Perfect.
We try.
Well, I'm going to take a quick timeout break here for another sponsor, and then we'll finish this thing up.
Sounds great.
Poketail Business Podcast is also sponsored by Pack and Go, the good people of Pack and Go, Mason, Darren, Brett. They also own Idaho Fire and Flood, which we just had an episode with them. They make it so easy for you to move from one home to another. They make it easier to store your valuables. All they do is drop this clean, flat pod at ground level at your house. You load all your stuff up, and when you feel like it's time and you're not being rushed, they come and load it up to their truck that's professionally driven to store, or it's professionally driven over to your other home to be unloaded carefully, and it just makes things a super easy process. So if you want to get a hold of them, call Darren at 208-339-2229. Again, if you sign up for a 3-month rental, if you're trying to store some stuff like I am right now, doing a remodel, they will give you 1 month for free, and that's a great deal, guys. So give them a call. But back to Kendra now. Kendra, we have to finish up with 2 other questions. And you probably, if you've seen this podcast before, you probably know what I'm going to ask. But we'd like to know what your favorite local restaurant is to eat at.
Ooh, Man, there's so many. So lately,
you're 2 or 3 at the max to choose.
2 or 3 max. Okay. Well, I love Thai food, and we have 3 really good ones. So I'm not going to name any of the 3 because I like all of them and I eat all of them. So I really like Thai food. When it comes to Mexican food, we really like El Herederos and El Chaparral.
Yep.
Those are probably my big ones. We're big Mexican and Thai food eaters.
I love it. I love it. Okay. What is one of the businesses, just general businesses locally in town that you like to spend your money at?
This requires people to go shopping, right? Besides groceries.
Yeah.
No, I do like our little local thrift shops and like craft stores.
Okay.
I love going to those, and we have quite a few.
Good.
Like the Elwyn Cottage and why am I forgetting names today? But I love to go into Old Town, Clark Street, Center Street, and hit all those shops and look at the things that people have made. To me, that's really going out and supporting your local community, because that's as local as it gets.
That's right. That's right. Well, I love these answers, Kendra, and I thank you for being with us. But is there anything I didn't ask that I should have?
Really, people need to visit with their insurance provider at least once a year. If you haven't visited with your provider at least once a year, or you haven't had someone else take a look, have someone take a second look, because you may not be with someone, like you were with someone and you were visiting with them and they never said a word to you until someone new came in. So sometimes it's not a bad idea to have someone take a second look at your situation and see if you're being properly covered, because different agents think things differently. And I was definitely trained to err on the side of caution, but I think that's not a bad way to go for families. We want to make sure that people have that peace of mind. When you go to bed at night, if something were to happen to you and your family, you want to know how things are going to play out, and that they're going to be okay and you're going to be okay. And we just want to take the stress off of that piece. Like, we want to make sure it might be a pain, but we don't want it to be a catastrophic problem for you. We want to take those out of the picture for you.
I couldn't agree more. So Kendra, if people are watching or listening right now and they're thinking, doggone it, Kendra is someone who knows her stuff, I definitely should try to probably talk to her. How do they get a hold of you?
So our number is 208-637-8090, or they can just email it Kendra@Rone Insurance.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Kendra, for being on the show. We hope to have you on the show in the future as well. And we will see you guys later. Thanks for listening.
Congratulations on spending a couple minutes getting just a little bit smarter, having some fun, and supporting the Pocatello business community. If you are feeling the love, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you are.